This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Welcome back to Racing Across America on Monday morning. Happy to be joined now by Mike Penna from the Horse Racing Radio Network. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Seth. How are you?
Very good. And Horse Racing Radio Network, plenty of Breeders' Cup coverage coming up. Are you out in Southern California already?
I am. As a matter of fact, I'm making my way to Santa Anita as we speak to get ready for all of the morning festivities. Of course, they started a couple of hours ago, but you know me. I'm always a little bit late to the party on that front, but can't wait to get there and get started with everything this week.
Have you been out to the track yet?
Yeah, I've actually been here since Wednesday, and I've been out to the track every morning, had a chance to talk to a lot of the major players. As a matter of fact, on Saturday morning, I made a trip down to Los Alamitos to get with California Chrome and his connections and watch his final prep for the Classic. And, boy, I'll tell you what, he looks like he's back to being the old California Chrome we knew through the Triple Crown Trail. And I think that anybody who bets against him in a Classic, you better beware, because I think he's sitting on a big race.
Yeah, that was the word coming out of that workout, and I have to admit, I didn't, at this point, I don't have him in my mix. I was at the National Museum of Racing on Saturday for their seminar. We have our own seminar coming up on Wednesday here at the Clubhouse Racebook, and I may change things up a little bit. I said to the folks on Saturday, it's early, I reserve the right to tweak things a little bit, and the reports on California Chrome have been very good. I'm curious, did you see the workout yesterday? The one that jumped off the page at me, and I was reading Mike Welch's comment. Fast Anna yesterday worked in 56.98. Boy, that's, I'm wondering if the friction was shooting flames off of that one.
Yeah, you're right. That workout really did kind of set Santa Anita abuzz. It was really strong work, and you wonder though, with a workout like that, is it too strong this close to the race? When you go that quickly. I don't know, but certainly looked the part yesterday.
Yeah, I think absolutely incredible. Mike, before we get to some of your thoughts on the Breeders' Cup action next weekend, always like to give you a little chance to tout what was on Horse Racing Radio Network last week. People can pick up on the archives, and you really had a couple of interesting interviews in there, some trainer interviews that were interesting, and also a golf interview with a horse racing related topic. Talk a little bit about what's on the archive.
Yeah, that was so much fun. As a matter of fact, if people go to our homepage, horseracingradio.net, they can hear the full interview. Gary Player, the legendary Hall of Fame golfer, was in Lexington a couple of weeks ago for the Owner View Conference, and he was kind enough to take a good 30 minutes and sit down with me and talk about his passion for horse racing. Gary is a breeder who has a huge farm in South Africa. He's a leading breeder, a top 10 breeder in South Africa every year, has an unbelievable passion. And when he tells you that his passion for horse racing rivals his love for golf, that kind of opens your eyes a little bit, and it perks you up, because you don't expect to hear that from a guy like Gary Player. But he was absolutely amazing, and I would encourage anybody to go back and listen to that interview.
And that trainer talk, you had a couple of interesting topics there as well.
Yeah, trainer talk, always a lot of fun. As a matter of fact, this week's trainer talk coming up is going to be unbelievable on Wednesday night. I sat down the other day with Bob Baffert for a full hour, and it was Bob Baffert the early years. We didn't even get to Silver Charm. Heck, we didn't even get to 30 Slews by the end of the hour. It was so good. He took me from growing up in Arizona all the way through working with his dad, his quarter horse days, some unbelievable stories, and that's going to air Wednesday night from 6 to 7.
Yeah, was he a racetrack industry program graduate?
Yes, he went to the University of Arizona, yeah.
That's what I thought. Very interesting. So folks can check that out. All right, Mike, let's, as I say, going to spend the week picking the brains of guests on some of the Breeders' Cup races and any horses that may step out to them. And as I noted earlier, it is Monday. We're not holding the guests today to their selections, but certainly we want some ideas. The post positions get picked later today, so we'll get more into kind of pinning things down for real after this afternoon. But this morning, just want to get some ideas on at least a couple of the big races. And first up, I'm going to take a look at the Breeders' Cup Distaff, the highlight on Friday. And I don't know whether this horse is in your mix, but I'm kind of using the week to throw some of the races out there that people might want to take a look at on some of the contenders. So, Mike, while we talk here, I'm going to pull up the Vanity from June. and we're going to watch Ayatapa just in an absolutely sensational performance over this Santa Anita strip. As we watch the stretch run, it will be the number 1 Ayatapa getting it done. A 109 Beyer figure, wins by over 10 lengths. Now subsequently she wins the Clement Hirsch at Del Mar and comes back to Santa Anita, and last time out third behind Beholder and Tis Midnight. But that was a mile and a 16th. This race we're watching here is a mile and an 8th, same distance as the Breeders' Cup Distaff. I think she's interesting. Close hatches, can she bounce back off the poor performance in the Spinster? Bel Galante out of the win in the Beldame. Ria Antonia, who seemed to recapture her good form in the last race. Unbridled Forever is kind of interesting. And of course, Untappable. I think this field is, and I haven't even mentioned Don't Tell Sophia. I think this race is loaded. What are your thoughts on the distaff?
Yeah, well, it's interesting you bring up Don't Tell Sophia as the final horse that you throw in, because when I sat down to handicap the pre-entries for this race, to me, Don't Tell Sophia really sticks out.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect that to be the case when I started handicapping. I said, well, I'm going to like what I see from closed hatches and her past performances, because she had been so dominant earlier in the year before getting beat by Don't Tell Sophia in the Spinster. And I thought, well, Bel Galante was really strong. Ayotapa was strong throughout the year. And I'll tell you, the horse that jumped off the page to me was Don't Tell Sophia. She has the right stalking style where she can sit kind of in mid-pack. Her late pace numbers, according to the Brisk past performances that I use, are extremely strong. They tower over the rest of the field, so we know she can finish. And I think she gets the perfect trip. I think she gets plenty of speed up front. And I think Don't Tell Sophia is the horse to beat in the distaff.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree. I think she's very, very intriguing. I'm waiting until this afternoon to kind of start to firm things up a little bit. The question mark will be, can close hatches bounce back to her good form? As I say, Bel Galante off of that last race is intriguing. But also, I want to get your thoughts. Untappable. I mean, she's stepping up against Older on Saturday, but boy, she is just so impressive. Was earlier this year so impressive. And I think that Cotillion, you know, the number wasn't as big as earlier starts when we go back to Rachel Alexander, the Fairground Oaks and the Kentucky Oaks. But it may just have been a comeback effort kind of a thing, and she may be set up to run very well on Saturday. What are your thoughts about the 3-year-old?
Yeah, I think she's going to have to run back to her races that we saw earlier in the year in the Kentucky Oaks and the Mother Goose and those races. She's really going to need to step up and run that type of a number if she wants to compete with the caliber of competition on Saturday in the distaff, or I should say on Friday in the distaff. So yeah, she should move forward off of that win in the Cotillion. I agree with you. It had the look of a prep, and I didn't expect her to be 110% fully cranked. This is obviously the ultimate goal on Friday. And, yeah, I think she can be in the mix, but she is going to need her best effort.
And what do you make in a closed hatches? That's the one I think in this race people have to make the decision on. Was that last race a bad indication, or was it an aberration?
Well, her deal is that she likes to be up front and she likes to control the pace, and that concerns me a little bit because I do think there's plenty of other speed in there to keep her honest on the front end. We saw it with Ria Antonia last time in the Spinster, where she went toe-to-toe with closed hatches and you know, was able to keep her honest. I'm concerned a little bit that there's too much speed in there for her to handle and fend all of those off and still be able to finish at the end.
All right. And speaking of speed, that is going to be something that folks are going to have to suss out and decide where to go in the Classic on Saturday, the highlight of the 2 days. And, you know, things have fallen apart over the past few months as far as the older division, and so we were wondering how the Classic would shape up. And it may not be, so to speak, a classic, but I think it's incredibly intriguing. The 3-year-olds that have come to the forefront over the past couple of months make it that way, but there's also some older horses that are very intriguing. And Mike, while we talk about this one of the older horses that I think is very interesting is Cigar Street, and I pulled up the homecoming from Churchill Downs on September 27th. Cigar Street will win this, the number 5 horse. But finishing second, number 4, Departing. Finishing third, Call Me George. Finishing fourth, the number 6, Pick of the Litter. Pick of the Litter and Departing ran 1-2 in the Fayette this weekend down at Keeneland. So I think they kind of flattered Cigar Street. I think Cigar Street potentially a little bit interesting. But again, California Chrome now getting the buzz off of the workout. Shared Belief, obviously, with the undefeated record. Tonalist coming out of a nice win in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. I think Zevo for Chad Brown's interesting. Toast in New York I find very intriguing. Marino, of course, with plenty of early speed, and that early speed will have to hook up with Bayern, who again I find very, very intriguing. You have to decide there. Is he maybe a 1.25 mile horse? Can he carry the speed that far? I think this race, again, maybe not stacking up as one of the all-time best fields in the Classic, but I think it is very, very intriguing and potentially offers some value for bettors. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, we've talked about this on the show. I think a couple of weeks ago we brought this up, and the picture in this division has changed so drastically from what we thought it was going to look like at the beginning of the year. I mean, this is a division that had Mucho Macho Man, Will Take Charge, Game On Dude, Palace Malice. All of those horses now gone to the sidelines or retired, and now we end up focusing on the 3-year-olds. And you have horses like Shared Belief, like California Chrome, who earlier in the year, we knew that they were pretty good, and we saw California Chrome nearly sweep the Triple Crown. But nobody really expected that those were going to be the horses in the spotlight when it came to the Breeders' Cup Classic. And you bring up the name Cigar Street. I couldn't agree with you more. I think Cigar Street is a very, very dangerous horse in here. Again, coming back to the numbers, like I did with Don't Tell Sophia and the Distaff, his numbers stack up very favorably with the likes of Shared Belief and with California Chrome. I think Cigar Street is the horse that people better keep an eye on the older horse side of things. Moreno, concerned about his ability to go that 1.25 mile with pressure from Bayern. He's definitely going to get pressure from him up front. I think those two are going to be hard-pressed to carry that speed 1.25 miles. And so to me, it comes back to California Chrome and to Shared Belief and to Cigar Street.
And let me ask you, Bayern, what are you making of that horse? Is this horse going to be able to clear Marino and 1.25 miles? Will that be too much to overcome? That's the horse that I, at this point, I don't have in my mix, but I find a little bit scary.
Yeah, I think he might be quicker than Moreno, just a little bit. And I think that if he wants to go to the front, I think Moreno will be more than content to say, okay, go ahead, and they'll sit just off of him. But even so, I think that pace is going to be very rapid. He's a very fast horse, and I have never been convinced that he could carry that speed 1.25 miles. Now, on this particular racetrack, we know he loves it. He's run some freakishly good efforts here at Santa Anita. I think that's playing in his favor. But even so, it's tall order to carry that speed 1.25 miles the way he'll have to if he wants to win on Saturday.
Yeah, again, I think it is very intriguing on a weekend of, I think really, they had record number of entries, nice full fields. I think as far as a betting weekend, this is shaping up to be very mouth-watering, and it should provide a lot of opportunities for folks. Just wondering, you have anything else from the 2 days that kind of you're looking out of the corner of your eye and maybe rubbing your hands together a little bit?
Not at this point, Seth, but I'll tell you, I took a look at that filly and mare turf. I sat down and had the chance yesterday to handicap about half of the races so far and really went in depth on that race, and that is as contentious a race as you're going to find on this Breeders' Cup program. I couldn't put my finger on one of the fillies and mares that was the horse to beat. It is that wide open, and you're talking about the defending champ, Dank, being back in that race, the likes of Stephanie's Kitten, a Baco for Shug McGahee. This is a really, really good renewal of the filly and mare turf.
Yeah, I agree, and I think, with Wise Dan out of that mile, he then opened things up a little bit. I think a lot of the focus is going to be on Toronado. I think obviously is really interesting in that race.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'll tell you another horse that I don't think can get beat is Golden Sense. And I know that's going to be a very popular opinion. He'll be a short price, but he really does look like the horse to beat in that dirt mile again.
Yeah, and I don't know that there are going to be too many. I had John White on with me yesterday, morning line odds maker out there. He hasn't, obviously you got to wait for post positions and whatnot, but he was anticipating maybe making Shared Belief the 8-5 favorite. He said a week or so ago he's thinking 6-5. I was in about the same camp. A week and a half or so ago, I thought Shared Belief would be a little more of a favorite. Then the pre-entries came out, and I really looked at the shape of things, and I think he might float up a little bit. 8-5 on the morning line. Then he's looking at potentially some co-second choices at 6-1, California Chrome and Tonalist and those kind. Although he had heard about the workout of California Chrome and was thinking that one may jump up a little bit as a lone second choice. But 8-5 on Shared Belief. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, that's probably about right. I think that's where he's going to end up, and probably rightfully so. And isn't that amazing that when we were going through the Triple Crown and California Chrome was doing his thing, could you ever imagine that you'd be talking about another 3-year-old at this point in the year being favored over California Chrome? But, hey, Shared Belief has been very, very good. And that win in the Awesome Again it really was awesome. He had nothing go his way, floated wide, he was wide throughout, and he was still able to win. And a lot of really good horses would have gotten beat with the trouble that he had that day. So, yeah, Shared Belief, I think a deserving favorite. California Chrome should be right behind him in the wagering. I would imagine he's probably going to go off maybe 5-1 in that ballpark there. And then, it comes back to the likes of Cigar Street and Bayern and Moreno and those horses there.
Yeah, very intriguing, absolutely, again, on a weekend. And that's what the Classic is, one of the storylines on the weekend, in that I think it could settle a couple of eclipses, the 3-year-old and potentially the Horse of the Year. And let me toss this out. We were talking, I was on the panel at the Racing Museum seminar this past Saturday, and it came up. Mike Veach was on the panel with me, and he said, boy, if you had to vote for Horse of the Year right now, you might vote for Wise Dan. And I'm wondering, Wise Dan, I could, with the older division kind of falling apart the way it did, if something crazy happened in the Classic, it's conceivable to me. Wise Dan could end up Horse of the Year again.
Yeah, to me, that's a little bit of a stretch. I think if voting were done today, I think you're looking at California Chrome as being your Horse of the Year. When you think about what he did for racing, and that's part of it. We talked about this with Zenyatta, too, when she was racing, and should she be Horse of the Year? And this was always a debate when she would come up for those year-end honors. And we looked at what she had done for the sport. Did she run against males all year long? No, but she beat them in the Breeders' Cup. Should she be Horse of the Year? What did she do for the sport? And I think that's one element that often gets overlooked in that voting. And California Chrome did more for this sport this year, and it's forgotten now because this sport is very much what have you done for me lately. And so much of what he did to put the sport in the limelight and in a very positive way is now forgotten. And I don't think we can overlook the fact that California Chrome did some really good things for our industry and for the sport of thoroughbred racing.
Yeah, that's a good point. And as I say, that scenario would only play out if something crazy happened in the Classic. I think there are some horses in there that can kind of make some pretty good claims for both, again, the 3-year-old Eclipse and the Horse of the Year with wins there. So we'll see how that winds up playing out. But it's going to be intriguing. That's one of the storylines. And I'll just toss out one horse I think it's going to be a fun storyline all week long. Hardest Core in the turf. He comes out of, they buy him to make him a jumper. He wins the Arlington Million. Now they're out the Breeders' Cup turf. He is going to be very intriguing this week.
Yeah, and a horse that only ended up with trainer Eddie Graham because of the illness to the original owner, and then he passes away, and Eddie Graham ends up getting the horse, and then it's just an amazing story all the way through. And the horse himself almost died at one point, so he was brought back from the brink, and then he gets back to this level. He is such a cool horse, such a cool story, and from everything I understand, he is extremely fit. He's been training on the uphill courses there, and if he is fit and ready to go, he could certainly make some noise in that Breeders' Cup turf.
That would be crazy if he won. That would be a lot of fun. Mike, before we let you go, just give us a little update on what people can expect from Horse Racing Radio Network this week.
Very busy week. We kick things off on Wednesday morning with the first of 3 Breeders' Cup Countdown morning shows. Those will air from 8 to 10 a.m. Pacific time, so 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. And folks can tune in on our website, horseracingradio.net, and on affiliates around the country. And then we come back on Friday and Saturday afternoon with our coverage of every single Breeders' Cup race, and that exclusive coverage nationwide on Sirius XM and all of our affiliates, and, of course, on our website as well. And I would encourage people for that entire schedule just to go to our site, horseracingradio.net. You can see it all there. You can see the listing of affiliates, and you can check out all of our trainer talk shows that are coming up. On Wednesday evening, it will be my one-on-one with Bob Baffert. On Thursday, our Brisnet Collins show. and on Friday, the Express Bet Weekend Stakes preview. So a very busy week here on the network, as you would expect.
Excellent. And Mike, we appreciate the visit this week. And as we understand, a little R&R and a little more work involved over the next month. So we won't get you in November, but we'll plug in, I guess, sometime after Thanksgiving. But in the meantime, absolutely enjoy your time out at Santa Anita. Good luck. And again, we'll talk to you in a few weeks.